The Ashkenaz Festival returns to locations across Toronto from August 30th to September 6th. Experience the best of the global Jewish music scene, including klezmer, Yiddish, Sephardic, Ladino, Persian, and so much more. Most programs free, from downtown to North York. Details at ashkenaz.ca.
Menschwarmers. Yeah, we used to be them bench warmers. But now you looking at the starting line. Swing, slap, shot, goal or bucket. Gabe and Jamie gonna talk about it, and you love it. It's the Menschwarmers. Yeah, we used to be them.
Hey everybody, thanks for listening. We are the Menschwarmers. I am Jamie. I'm here with my co-host Gabe. Gabe, how you doing, buddy?
You know, the season's turning. We are in almost the high holiday season.
Sure.
I'm feeling a chill in my bones. It's almost soup season, almost Rosh Hashanah.
No. This is still like prime stone fruit summer. You know, we're doing good.
But it's cold. The tomatoes are turning so quickly.
You know, my dad has a epic tomato garden at his cottage, and unfortunately the tomatoes are like 3 weeks late this year, and also being poisoned by a nearby walnut tree. So they'll have to be moved across the lawn. It's a real to do.
Our tomatoes are doing great, personally.
That's good.
But they're very full. Like there's been a lot of tomatoes, and they're like, yeah, we're having some great tomato season. Anyway, we're not here to talk about gardening. That's our other podcast.
If you had another podcast, what do you think it would be?
Oh, that's a good question. Somebody asked me. I think I've told you this. I gave a talk at the JCC Maccabi Games a couple of weeks back. And that was one of the questions are there any other great Jewish podcasts we could, like Jews in blank, and like literature and music, whatever. But I think the greatest Jewish chefs, you could have like a podcast where you're just like, oh, here's the Anthony Bourdain motivational quote of the week. What's Heston Blumenthal doing?
I watched the Anthony Bourdain movie. It was okay.
It was anything about him being Jewish?
No, and I mean, his mom is a character in the movie briefly, and played by a non-Jewish actress, but they don't emphasize any part of his Judaism. In fact, he does go to church repeatedly and make no mention of, I wasn't raised with anything, or I was raised half Jewish or anything like that. But he didn't really talk about it in his own life either. I think he mentioned it briefly in the Israel episode.
Yeah.
And I thought the movie was okay, but it's a lot of like, it just sort of suffers from like that Paul Harvey issue of like, now you know the rest of the story. And it's like, yeah, but if I didn't know the rest of the story, this would not be interesting at all. Like, it's only interesting because you know who
because you know
into.
The rest of the story, because you know all of this about Anthony Bourdain. Okay, so we are now doing this podcast.
We're now doing this podcast, yeah. So a Jewish culture podcast, I guess, or just a movie podcast in general. But let's save that for our fictional future podcast. And talk about,
fictional future where we discuss, what's Heston Blumenthal doing this month.
That's right.
Or pick any other great Jewish chefs. We've only really got two.
I'm sure there's some others I haven't even thought about.
Michael Solomonov discussing Philadelphia sports. Maybe we can get that all together. We could do
Yoda Motolengi, I guess. I would say Yoda Motolengi has had a more significant impact on food in the last 15 years than almost anybody.
Yes, and
the Plenty in Jerusalem cookbooks probably had a huge impact on the food, like the food you eat in a restaurant in the last 10 years.
I think you could probably do all three. You could have like Ottolenghi with restaurant food, Blumenthal with like upscale
science,
soul food and science, right? And Anthony Bourdain with like foodie culture.
Yep.
Like between the three of them, that's your Jewish Mount Rushmore of chefs. And Michael Solomonov with like soul food. That's the other one, right? He's got, all the like 8 restaurants.
It's not a bad point.
It's a podcast idea. It's an idea.
It's a podcast idea, yeah. Let us return to the business of sport. And today's episode, I think it'll be a bit of a hodgepodge, catching up, as we end the dog days of summer.
There is big business of sport news to bring that up.
Absolutely. Which is probably the biggest story in the sports business world, which is that the Lakers got sold.
Mark Walter.
Just a few years after Mark Walter bought them. They've been sold to Josh. Is that the one?
Josh
Kushner.
Josh Kushner. Yep.
And Bob Iger, formerly the CEO of Disney. Josh, of course, the brother-in-law to Ivanka Trump, brother of Jared, brother-in-law of Ivanka Trump. But not that political himself. And also
husband to Carly Kloss.
Right.
who did convert to Judaism.
Huh.
We could have a Jewish high fashion podcast too. And anyway,
sounds like they spent about $12.5 billion, which is insane, but that's how much the Lakers cost now. Mark Walter's not Jewish, but it does seem like he may have been trading on the goodwill of the Guggenheim family name for a long time, it turned out.
I also think people think the Bus family might be Jewish too, because he's like a big LA, like, Macher. Yeah, but very much not Jewish.
The Busses aren't Jewish because Jerry Buss gave all his kids J names, like as a bit. I feel like no Jew would do that, or like there's too many family names you would have to do. Like, no, I've never met a Jewish family where it's like, these are our children's David, Daniel, Daniela, Dor. Like I honestly have never heard that even once.
I've never known a Jewish person to live in a house with a name. Like a perfect example was, Janie. Yes, Jeannie Buss. The Buss family.
There's also a daughter named Janie, though.
Janie,
just to be clear.
Like the Buss family lived in a mansion that was named Pickfair. And no Jew has lived in a house with a name, just like no Jew was named their kids.
To be fair, they didn't give
letters.
Pickfair the name Pickfair. I mean, that was Mary Pickford and Douglas Fairbanks.
Yes, but they moved in.
They didn't rename it. They didn't rename it Schluffy Times or anything like that.
She was raised. No, they didn't name it Schluffy Times. Similarly, she's married to another person everyone thinks is Jewish, comedian Jay Moore.
Yeah, that's true.
And he's not.
Right. But yeah, this is big news. The Lakers got sold to, two Jewish billionaires, I guess.
Mark Walter, we should all say, we've talked many times, not Jewish, although is currently possibly committing some sort of financial crime.
Right. And let's save any comment on that for our tertiary podcast, the Great Jewish Fraudsters.
Yes, exactly. Jewish financial crime. Made off and made on.
Yeah.
Made on the air.
If you are a Jewish Angelino and you've been trying to decide which team to root for, I mean, both are now owned by Jewish billionaires. As we've said before, that's an insane reason to support a team or not. Don't do it based on the owner. But you can't go wrong now. I mean, they're both, between Ballmer and the Kushner-Iger partnership. We've dominated, people say we run the world, but really we're just running the LA basketball scene.
Yep.
Plus that gym that LeBron and Chet worked out at the Hebrew school.
Yeah, the Hebrew school. It goes deep. That's where we really run. It makes you think. Makes you really think about it.
It'd be interesting to see what happens. I mean, it's an odd time, but it's like it's the Lakers. Like, it's a good team to buy, I guess, at any time.
I think at any
Mark
time.
Walter flipping it for $2 billion more than he paid for it is like,
but that's a 20% growth in 15 months, which, to be honest with you, like that's not crazy. Companies grow 20% in 15 months, and companies that don't employ LeBron James and Luka Doncic.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was a good
business. Good business if you can get it.
Exactly. Good business if you did. I would have operated I would have done the whole thing that Walter did for only $1 billion extra. I would have sold it for 11 if I got the opportunity to do so.
Well, the problem is you don't own a bunch of insurance companies that you can, let's say, launder your fortune through.
Yes.
Anyways, we'll see what happens with that. If the Lakers' new Jewish owners want to have some Jewish Heritage Nights, I'm sure they'll get some. I'm sure they have some season ticket holders who will be happy to have that.
And we're happy to host. Just so you know.
Let's move on, Gabe. There's been some. I hear it's the Premier League is going on. That's where the World Cup guys play when they're not doing World Cup stuff.
When they're not doing the World Cup, yes. So we've got a couple of pieces of Premier League news that were brought up on one Premier League, one Championship. We'll start with the Premier League. Is that a non-Jewish Israeli has just joined Crystal Palace. Which is pretty cool. I played on the Israel under-20 team that made it to the semis of the World Under-20 World Cup last year.
Yeah, that's right. A couple years ago, but yeah.
His name is Anan Khalili, and he's from Saknin, Israel, which is sort of a northern Arab town. And now he's playing for Crystal Palace,
cool.
Sort of a South London. The Eagles, currently owned by 10% by Josh Harris. If you want to get back again who the Jews are. As well, David Blitzer. So Harris and Blitzer own the 76ers together.
Right.
And now they also own the Crystal Palace with a very much non-Jew Woody Johnson. But
I'm sure the Crystal Palace has a fair amount of Jewish fans. In South London and all.
I'm sure they do. Not quite, but we've got another London story. So, congratulations, big muzzle tov, to, I guess we call him the Habibi. Maybe we can, maybe we can't. I don't know. Anan Khalili. But he played it in Maccabi Haifa, and now he's in London. But another London team, we've been sort of following the saga of Manor Solomon, who left lots of Jewish fans, Tottenham, and joined West Ham. So West Ham, they're the Bubbles or the Hammers, or I don't quite know what they're named of. But as we all know, West Ham soccer teams have really stupid chants. Okay. And Solomon scored in his first goal, which is great. However,
he scored a goal in his first appearance.
Yeah, he scored a goal in his first appearance, which is pretty great. Playing, the championship, maybe it'll help West Ham get back up. But
are they in the championship?
They're in the championship league. They're in the championship. Okay. They're one level below the Premier League, but they've been in the Premier League for many, many years. They're sort of a legendary. They play in the Olympic London Stadium. Like, they're a big deal London team. The Hammers, lots of fans. Something about forever blowing bubbles. I don't know why they sing that. But as you know, they probably, and it's funny but depressing, and I don't like it, but their fans have started doing anti-Palestine chants whenever Manor Solomon touches the ball or does good things.
Wow.
Because they're like, wow, he's Israeli. He's our guy. Like, let's get a little hardcore for Israel. And like, as a Jewish person and sports fan and Zionist, I don't want that.
Sure.
I don't think that's a good thing for the Hammer fans to be, bringing the Israel-Palestine war that's currently going on into this. So if you're listening and you're a Hammer fan or a Bubble or whatever they call themselves, let's not do that. You can cheer for Manor Solomon in a different, perhaps more positive way.
Yeah, tying a bow on this soccer talk, should mention as well, the last time we spoke, we talked about an incident that happened in Montreal at an Impact game between them and the New England Revolution. And the team did end up suspending or banning 2 fans from the stadium. And according to the reporting, suspended benefits for supporter section. I assume that means they're like, they don't get official supporter status, or they don't get to, their seats or something like that. I don't know.
Something like that. I don't.
But it does seem they did some investigation. They didn't say, and we'd mentioned before, there'd been, it was contentious about whether or not there had been chants, quote, literally saying, quote, death to Israel or not. But they didn't announce whether there had been any revelations from their investigation aside from the 2 fans being banned. So I guess we'll see what happens at the next Montreal New England game, if there is another one this season, or next season, or next time Montreal hosts a team with Jewish players. But I guess good on CF Montreal for doing something about it.
I think that's.
I'm sure that will change the general tenor of Quebecois sports fandom.
I'm sure they'll all line up side by each and only give sort of happy chants now.
Yeah. Let's talk about some good news. Gabe, you talked last episode with Tamir Goodman, the Jewish Rodman, who was the last Orthodox Jew to play.
Rodman.
Sorry, the Jewish Jordan. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself here.
Yes.
With Tamir Goodman, the Jewish Jordan, he's the last Orthodox Jew to play Division I basketball. And now there is a new Jew playing Division I basketball, and that is Chaim Galbut of Miami, 6'7" tall, who will be suiting up next year for Duquesne. He called himself the Jewish Rodman.
Yes, he's the Jewish Rodman.
He knows that you want to be the board man because the board man gets paid.
Yes.
And he took a gap year last year and is going to be suiting up in Pittsburgh for Duquesne. Pretty exciting to see. I think it's something that, we haven't seen in a long time. Jews obviously been playing basketball and filling out a yeshiva team for most of the better Orthodox players have gone to yeshiva.
Yep.
But part of what he chose about going to Duquesne is not wanting to play on Shabbos. And that's apparently a problem going to the Ivy League because most of their games are Friday night and Saturday games.
Yep.
They're
similar
obviously they're going to have to accommodate
what he did, what Tamir Goodman years ago was able to.
Right.
Yes. was able to.
So we'll keep an eye on him.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously he's a freshman. It's his first year. I feel like I have not heard Duquesne talked about in the last few years in terms of basketball. Like they're one of those like classic, like not like mid-Atlantic Ohio. They're not Ohio Valley, but sort of not like Big East, but like I think they play A10 or they have in the past, but it's like, they've been sort of around like Pittsburgh's a decent basketball city. It's in the area, but they have not been to the NCAA tournament since 2024. And that was their first time in a few decades. So we'll see how they do. We'll see how we'll see how they comport themselves and accommodate a new Orthodox player. It'd be definitely interesting to see.
Oh, absolutely. Duquesne University isn't on many people's radars. It is in Pittsburgh, which is, obviously a very Jewish city. You've got family from Pittsburgh. We've both been there, like it. And I've talked about the Pittsburgh Jewish community a number of times. So I think, it is
a Catholic school. I should say.
It is a Catholic school. It's true. Neither Carnegie
funny.
nor Mellon were Jewish. So that's also not a particularly Jewish school. Carnegie CMU. But I think, he'll be.
That's a good segue.
He'll have some fans.
It'd be a Catholic school, we should say, is not necessarily an impediment to a Jew going there. And our next little segment, we want to talk a little bit about NFL preview. And one of the two current Jewish NFLers, as far as we know, on rosters is A.J. Dillon, who went to Boston College, which is also a Catholic school.
A Catholic university. I mean, we've had other guests talk on the show, but BU, don't get them confused. Yeah. Boston University is the very Jewish school. Boston College is the very not Jewish school. So something we probably, to separate them. But yes, we will get to that preview now, I guess. So Jamie, other than AJ Dillon, talked about him. He signed with Carolina this year. Hopefully is looking for a comeback season.
Yeah. So people will probably recall he was in Green Bay sort of as a solid number 2, getting 10 touches a game for a while, I think 3 or 4 years. Then he was injured and signed last year. He missed about a full year with an injury and signed last year with the Eagles, where, I think going into the season, it was expected that he would sort of compete for the number 2 job, but ultimately ended up only getting about a dozen touches during the year. Didn't really play much. Now he's in Carolina. Carolina's like often in previous years gone with a two or three running back, since they had since they lost McCaffrey, there hasn't been necessarily a bell cow there. So
no,
if
maybe
he slots in at the number
Hubbard,
3,
maybe.
Again, like he'll probably get the majority of the touches, but if he slots in as this number 2 and number 3 running back to start the season, wouldn't be shocking to see them have to, decide to turn to him or game plan for him with,
he is
5 runs a game starting off. But on the other hand, he is 28, which is, middle-aged at least for NFL running backs. It's hard to say, how many touches he's going to get or if he's really going to get a chance to return. Obviously the effects of injury and age come to everyone. But excited to see him suit up and see how he does. Mm-hmm. And joining him in Carolina is Jake Curhan, who has had a, long career since 2021. He has been on 4 different teams, and he was in Carolina last year. I think he suited up in about 13 games. He's an offensive lineman, and he was just signed. So whether he ends up as a starter or filling in, likely that we're going to see him play a fair number of games. He's a big fella, 6'6".
He is
big arms, can really get some push going there. So
do we think this
interesting to see if he gets in with the Panthers? Maybe
do we think this is somewhat of a David Tepper thing going on? We have Jewish owners. We know that Robert Kraft certainly has put some Jewish players on the New England Revolution. We've talked about this at length. Is David Tepper doing the same thing? Speaking of Jewish men of Pittsburgh,
would be interesting to see if that's the case. I think that is, there's so few that it's like 2 being on the same team is sort of a fluke. But on the other hand, there's a 1 in 30 chance, I suppose, of them both ending up in the same place. There are a few other, Jews of note in the NFL or NFL adjacent that might get a spot. Anthony Ferguson, who's been a mostly blocking tight end, played a little bit in the last couple of years with Detroit and Kansas City. He was signed to the Lions practice squad, but was just released a few days ago. with an injury settlement. So again, whether he can recover on his own and try to catch on somewhere in the middle of the year, who knows? Unclear, but we haven't seen anything yet. Michael Dunn was on the Chargers practice squad last year, but hasn't seen any playing time since then. So again, whether he's able to catch on somewhere, unlikely. And Jake Retzlaff had a tryout. Jake Retzlaff, of course, previously of BYU and Tulane. He did attend mini camps for the Seahawks and the Jets, but of course, I mean, there's like 80 to 90 quarterback slots at any given time. He was taken in the CFL draft, I believe. Like somebody in the CFL owns his rights, but I haven't heard anything about him joining the CFL team or necessarily pursuing that. So we'll have to see if he, is able to find a way, play his way onto a roster somehow or a practice squad or something like that.
If not, maybe he's coming north for the summer, or I guess in the fall.
I mean, I guess it would have to be next summer at this point because, there hasn't been, again, the CFL season's almost towards its end. And again, it's sort of funny because it's not like basketball where you can like make a living, make a career playing in Europe or trying that out at least. It's just sort of like, or baseball where it's like you could stay in the minor leagues and get your shot eventually. It's just sort of like, yeah, you're 23 years old, but nobody's going to employ you as a quarterback because there's only 100 spots for that in the entire world. So yeah, good luck. Maybe play independent ball. Like even there's not even like arena football anymore. Like there's and I guess or NFL Europe or anything like that. Yeah, there's like USFL. Like that's there's really very few spots. So whether Jake is able to find a spot somewhere or not, who knows? But obviously we wish him luck. Want to see the BY Jew in the on Sundays now too. Absolutely, no, I would fully agree. It's slim pickings for us in the NFL world. I wouldn't say we've scoured every college roster, but obviously if there's Jewish college, if you hear of football players, please let us know, fans. Please let us know. Please let us know. Oh, so should we move on? What other news do we have in sports to discuss this week? Yeah, Gabe, you said that there were some interesting Jewish players in the hockey junior world. Is it already hockey season again? It's already hockey season again. We're getting there. Training camps are starting in a couple of days, actually. Rookie tournaments are probably going to be going on when this episode airs. But last week was the training camps. Last couple of weeks were the training camps and sort of tryouts for the World Junior teams. Okay. 2 years ago, Zev Buim had his star-making turn for Team USA, leading them to a gold medal, having an assist on the gold medal winning goal. But we've got two Ethans. One for Canada and one for the USA, who look to be both probably likely top of the depth chart first. Two Ethans who are both currently drafted in the NHL, who are high prospects and likely to be very important players on each of their teams. In the future, or in this year's World Junior Championship. So that's World Under 20 Hockey Championships. Big deal in US and Canada, obviously. And we've got the two Ethans, one on each side of the squad. Ethan Wittenbach goes to Quinnipiac University. I believe he was drafted by Utah in the last year. He was sort of Rookie of the Year and Player of the Year in the ECAC last year on Quinnipiac. He's gone back to Quinnipiac and is probably going to be the number one right winger for Team USA this year at the World Juniors. You mixed that up. He was drafted by the Flames. He was with the Flames. Sorry, I got the Ethans backwards. I did get the Ethans backwards. Wittenbach is the American going to the Flames. But he's a really good college player, is going to do really well in hopefully for Team USA and then go up to Calgary maybe next season. As well, we've got Ethan Belchetz. Belletz, I don't quite know how to pronounce it. Somebody hopefully will say so. But he is, he was drafted 17th overall this season by the Utah Mammoth. He is, quite expected to play in the NHL for a while. He's also proud of being Jewish, which is really cool. So he played for the Windsor Spitfires for the last couple of years. I think this year he's going to play at Michigan State for a year. Similarly, he's been drafted. He can probably get paid at Michigan State, which is pretty cool. It's pronounced Belchez, according to Michigan State. But hopefully he will be
playing really well, and then do well in Utah after the World Juniors. So watch out for the two Ethans. His parents,
cool.
by the way, both doctors at Credit Valley Hospital. So if the two of them are, if you're ever in at Credit Valley Hospital with, you get one of the Bellhets, ask them about their kid.
That's good. So we'll have to keep an eye out for that in a few months when the World Juniors come around Christmas, New Year's they start. Yeah. And wish both those Ethans luck. As always with young guys prospects, it could still be a few years away before we start seeing their names lighting the sports page. And I'm sure we'll do a full hockey preview next month. Thankfully for those of us who are more hockey agnostic, we still have September, right? Hockey doesn't start until October at a minimum, right?
For another year.
Well, at least another month.
Another month for the year. Exactly.
All right. Well, okay. It's hard enough in Canada being here. Let's wrap up with some kudos and shorter stories towards the end here. Israeli athlete and gymnast Artem Dolgopiat won a championship at the European Gymnastics Championship. What exactly did he win, Gabe? Because I know he's doing different things, but
so I believe he won all around,
wow.
Which might be everything.
So the floor exercise, I think.
The floor exercise, yeah. So the floor exercise, he won gold in Tokyo, silver in Paris. That's his sort of general thing. But he won, in floor. He was he won in 2020 and 22. Now he's won again in 26, and is won in 23 the world. So I think he's looking to repeat his world title, which would be pretty darn cool if he got to. And then maybe come back for another Olympics like he's doing in the run again. So winning the floor it's a big deal. Yeah, it's pretty amazing. He is really good.
Yeah. Be great to see him if he can make it back to the Olympics in 28. I would assume he'll be the best Israeli at least and be their representative.
And
cheer him on
carry two medals into LA. Lots of Jews to cheer him on in LA.
Yeah, for sure. Moving on to baseball, we got some kudos to give to Dylan Cease of our Toronto Blue Jays, who has really just been mowing them down over the last month. His last 5 starts, he hasn't given up more than 3 runs, and he flirted with a no-hitter really 2 times, I would say. He really flirted with a no-hitter in the last month or so. In the last game against the Yankees, he had a no-hitter going into the 7th inning that he eventually gave up and was charged with an earned run that scored right before he was taken out of the game. He is neck and neck with Cam Schlittler for the AL Cy Young. I think it's pretty even right now. It's just sort of like who's going to have the best last 6 starts, I guess they each have left. 5 or 6 starts to end the year. So as the Jays are making this wild card push, really excited to see how Dylan does. And he is now a celebrated artist as well, because the AGO is showing off some of his art and selling. That's the Art Gallery of Ontario. Sorry for our non-Toronto listeners.
Yeah, for those of you who know, I mean, it's good for him. He's really embraced himself in the artistic community of Toronto. Jewish Visual Artists is not a podcast we are currently looking at doing, but I suppose we probably could.
Yeah. They dropped a collaborative limited edition collection of shirts that were for sale and some other artwork that was for sale. I think it was just sold today or tomorrow. Like it's really just being sold directly from the AGO. And as an admirer plus level supporter of the AGO, I like to think that I helped. It's viewers like me who helped make that happen. Me and my AGO membership. So congratulations, Dylan. Again, keep painting those corners. And some hardware would be pretty amazing. He's won a pitcher of the month, and it'd be great if he could win.
It'd be great if he could go to the Cy Young. Absolutely.
And kudos goes on the other side of the Great Lakes to Alex Bregman, who after a bit of a slow start in Chicago is just like having a crazy August.
Oh yeah,
he had a 3 home run
carrying
game
the team basically.
Yeah, he had a 3 home run game. Which is, I believe, the first time that someone's hit 3 home runs this year. And then he was one up a few minutes later by that rookie in the Cardinals, who hit three in his debut.
In his first game.
But he's had 8 home runs in August. He's hitting 301. Flirting with Player of the Month honors probably. The Cubs are pretty good. Like they're going to make the playoffs for sure. We don't know exactly where they'll be seated, but obviously they'll be second or third favorites to come out of the NL. I mean, you know, I think the Dodgers are the hands down favorites, and probably the Brewers are almost certainly going to win the Central, but the Cubs might give them a run for their money. But you know, as the first wild card or second wild card in the NL, like they'll have a decent shot
they
at
can
getting
make some
there.
noise. They absolutely can.
Yeah.
You know, there's a chance we get, you know, things would have to break right. But if we get Dylan Cease pitching to Alex Bregman or Max Fried pitching to Alex Bregman in the finals,
In the World Series,
in the World Series would be pretty darn cool.
Would be pretty cool. Max Fried, of course, unfortunately has been dealing with a number of injury issues this year. He was just placed back on the DL last week with, I believe, elbow issues. Is it again?
Yes, some sort of elbow issue again, unfortunately. But his season isn't over.
His season isn't over. Unclear when he'll be back, but I'm sure the Yankees and Yankees fans will be happy to have him back. You know, by high holidays at least, so that he can get going for the playoffs.
I agree. I think, you know, as baseball season winds into high holiday season, we start to look at players who are going to skip any games, or maybe like Kevin Pillar always used to have a great game on the high holidays.
Right.
So if you know of any of them, let us know. But, you know, we'll be enjoying, we'll be happy for Alex Bregman, even if he plays, you know, knowing that he's carrying the team.
And this is an early it's an early New Year this year, right? Like relatively speaking.
It is quite early. It's on the 12th of September, so it's, you know,
like 2 weeks from now. So the high holidays, I don't think will interfere with the MLB playoffs at all, except maybe Shmini Atzeret is like on the wild card games or something like that. I don't know exactly what the dates are.
Simchas Torah is probably on a very important game. You know, late season possibly that matters.
So
but no,
you know, again, it's good because sometimes Yom Kippur is like right during the divisional series. But an early New Year means no interference with baseball, so that's good. I suppose I think it is the Rosh Hashanah weekend is the opening weekend of the NFL. So if you're a big football fan, it might be hard to find time to watch your favorite team on the Sunday.
Yes, Simchas Torah. Sorry, we can answer this for sure. Simchas Torah and Shmini Atzeret are October 3rd and 4th, which will be smack in the middle of the divisional series.
Okay. But again, those are celebratory holidays, and ain't no rules says you can't do a little chagba at the baseball stadium.
No,
so,
and I would say as
so.
you end and begin the Torah, you end and begin the regular season and begin the postseason.
Sure,
it's a new season, new Torah, of course.
Yeah,
I do want to call it one specific thing before we go away that we talked about earlier. Sure. Partially Jewish, we recognize her as Jewish. Tennis star Alina Svitolina is having sort of a renaissance year. She continued that when in Toronto this past week, or maybe 2 weeks ago now, coming in the semifinals in a WTA 100 event, or 1000 event, I should say, the Canadian Open, the Rogers National Bank Open, whatever they call it. She won that event in 2017. Had been, I think, 8 years without a 1000 win. She won the Italian Open earlier this year. We talked about that when it happened. She had a kid in the intervening years. It was COVID, but 8 years without a big win is pretty exciting. And, you know, she took a full year off from 2022 to 2023. She made the semis at the Australian Open this year. And as we go into the US Open is in pretty good form, having won in Italy in the spring and then coming in the semis in Toronto. So good for Alina. She's back. Maybe she can she's never made it past the semis at the US Open. Maybe she can get back there this week. That would be pretty exciting. Yeah,
she's back to, being in the top 10 now. I think she and her husband, Gail Mulphy, are playing mixed doubles too, which is pretty cool.
They are playing which is pretty cool. I wonder if they can show their daughter. They have a daughter. They could show their kid, who's I guess now 4 or 5, watching both their parents play tennis together. It's pretty cool.
Cool.
What's the most athletic activity you could imagine your parents doing together that you would sit and watch on a television?
Ooh, I don't know. Scrabble, maybe. I don't know if that really counts. I don't know if I'd watch it, but on TV, but maybe at home.
Do we have bickering? No, that's not fun. Maybe out joking each other.
Sure.
Anyways, comedy.
Yeah, I think that about wraps it up for another edition of Menschwarmers. Getting through these dog days of summer. Rounding into football season and MLB playoffs is a wonderful time of year.
It's great.
We'll have lots more for you on everything going on in the Jewish world of Jews and sports. And please, always like and subscribe to our podcast. We're brought to you by the Canadian Jewish News. We're produced by Michael Freeman. You can find our articles, podcasts, everything else on the Canadian Jewish News website, the CJN.ca, and follow us on Twitter at Menschwarmers. Thanks for listening.
Menschwarmers, come on. Menschwarmers. Say it with me, it's the Menschwarmers. Get your pickles.
The Ashkenaz Festival returns to locations across Toronto from August 30th to September 6th. Experience the best of the global Jewish music scene, including klezmer, Yiddish, Sephardic, Ladino, Persian, and so much more. Most programs free, from downtown to North York. Details at ashkenaz.ca.